There are disasters we're used to. Fires leave smoke. Earthquakes leave cracks. Storms leave things broken. This story doesn't. No rubble, no warning, no sound you can point to and say, that was it. Just a normal place, on a normal day, that quietly stopped. Imagine walking into a town where dinner is still on the stove. Cars are still waiting at red lights. TVs are still playing shows no one is watching. And everyone? Gone. Not dead, not hiding, not evacuated. Just missing. Every clock stopped at the same second. Every action frozen halfway. Like time itself blinked and forgot to reopen its eyes. This isn't a ghost story. There are no monsters hiding in the shadows, no jump scares, no loud music telling you when to be afraid. That's what makes it worse, because nothing looks wrong, and yet everything is. Tonight, we're not asking who did this. We're not even sure we're asking what did this. The real question is simpler and scarier. What happens when time decides it's done with you? Sit back, lower the lights, and don't check the clock too often, because this story begins at the exact moment everything stopped. There's a strange kind of fear that doesn't scream. It doesn't run. It just sits there, quiet, waiting for you to notice. This story starts in that kind of quiet. No explosions, no alarms, no dramatic last words carved into walls. Just a normal day that stopped being normal without telling anyone. It was late afternoon, not sunrise dramatic, not midnight spooky. Just that boring in-between time when nothing important is supposed to happen. And yet, that's exactly when time gave up. The first clue was the clocks. Every clock in the town told the same lie. Kitchen clocks, office wall clocks, wristwatches left on nightstands, the big clock above the train station entrance. All frozen. Same minute, same second. Not broken, not smashed. Just paused. Like someone hit a remote and walked away. At first, investigators thought it was a power issue, maybe a grid failure, maybe a surge. But battery clocks were frozen too. Old wind-up clocks, cheap digital ones from the dollar store. Even the fancy ones that people buy because they like the ticking sound. All stopped at the exact same time. That's not how power problems work. That's how something else works. Then came the unfinished actions. Inside homes, dinner sat half-made. A pot of soup on the stove boiled dry. Pasta glued to the bottom of pans like it never got stirred again. Ovens still warm hours later, but empty of people. One kitchen had bread dough rising on the counter. It rose, and rose, and collapsed. No one came back to check on it. Somebody had been cooking like they planned to eat. Bold move considering what happened next. In living rooms, TVs were still on. Game shows paused mid-sentence. News anchors frozen with mouths half open. Laugh tracks echoing to no one. Remote controls lay on couches. Phones sat unlocked on coffee tables. One phone had a text typed out, never sent. Just 3 words. Did you hear? No period, no emoji. Nothing. That sentence never got finished. Cars were worse. Way worse. Vehicles were abandoned everywhere. On the side of the road, at traffic lights, in drive-through lanes. One car sat in the middle of an intersection, engine cold, door open. No skid marks, no crash damage, no panic. Just a car waiting for a driver who never came back. Another vehicle was found halfway into a parking space, like the driver started to park, changed their mind, and vanished instead. That's not how usual errands end. Public transit told the same story. A bus stopped 3 blocks from its final stop. Passengers' bags still on seats. A newspaper folded neatly on the floor. Driver's coffee in the holder, untouched. It went cold. No one noticed. Trains sat silent on tracks, doors open like they were waiting for boarding that never happened. Airports were quiet too. Not chaos quiet. Museum quiet. Check-in counters ready. Security trays lined up. A departure board frozen on the same minute as every other clock. No canceled flights, no delays. Just no people. Outside, nature kept going. That's what made it worse. Birds still sang. Wind still moved leaves. Clouds didn't care at all. Fires burned out naturally. Fireplaces went cold on their own. Candles melted into soft wax puddles. Campfires collapsed into ash, undisturbed. No sudden blasts, no signs of a fight. Walls weren't scratched, doors weren't broken. Windows stayed whole. Whatever happened didn't knock. It didn't ask permission. And it didn't leave a mess. Hospitals should have been chaos. They weren't. Beds were made, machines were on. Charts clipped neatly at the foot of beds. An IV bag had run empty. An alarm blinked. No one came. A surgical tray sat prepped in an operating room, tools lined up like soldiers waiting for orders that never came. Someone had scrubbed in. Someone had walked away. That's not how shifts end. Schools were the same. Chalkboards half-written. A math problem stopped mid-equation. Backpacks hanging on chairs. Lunch trays sat full in the cafeteria. Milk spoiled. Pizza hardened. No one complained. That alone is suspicious. There were no signs of struggle. No blood, no overturned furniture, no defensive wounds. Not even panic. It didn't look like people ran. It looked like they stopped. Like everyone paused at once and never hit play again. Here's where it gets unsettling. The timeline. Based on the food, the traffic, the schedules, the open shops, everything points to the same tiny window. Minutes, maybe seconds. Whatever happened didn't roll through town like a storm. It snapped. Fast. Clean. Precise. No warning sirens were triggered. No emergency calls flooded in. In fact, the emergency lines were silent after that moment. Phones didn't ring. They just waited. Some rang once, then stopped. Voicemail boxes filled with half messages. Breathing, a noise, then nothing. This wasn't decay. This wasn't evacuation. This wasn't disaster as we know it. Disasters leave chaos. This left stillness. The kind of stillness that feels rude, like the world forgot to tell you something important. Imagine stepping into a place where everyone was alive 5 minutes ago, where dinner plans were real, appointments mattered. Someone was probably late and apologizing. And now? Nothing. No bodies, no answers, no sound except your own breathing reminding you that you're still moving, even though the town
isn't. Time didn't explode. It didn't rewind. It froze. And whatever caused it didn't care who was ready and who wasn't. Next chapter, we'll look at the people who should have noticed first and why they didn't. Because if time can stop this quietly, the real question is, how long does it wait before it happens again?
The ones who should have known first. If something goes wrong in a town, there's a list of people who find out before everyone else. Cops, doctors, dispatchers, utility workers, night shift folks who never really sleep anyway. They're the early warning system. And in this case, they heard nothing. Let's start with emergency services. The 911 center was still powered. Screens glowed, headsets hung on their hooks. Call logs showed something strange. Normal traffic, normal complaints, noise calls, lost dogs, someone angry about parking. Classic stuff. Then, nothing. No flood of panic calls, no screaming, no send help now. Just a clean stop. Like the town collectively decided to respect quiet hours forever. One dispatcher's chair was pulled back slightly, like they had just stood up to stretch. A pen lay uncapped on the desk, coffee cold, untouched. Their shift didn't end. It just dissolved. Police radios told the same story. Squads were mid-patrol. One car sat parked behind a closed gas station, lights off. Another was stopped near a playground, engine idle. Radios were silent after the same minute mark as the clocks. No mayday calls, no backup requests, no confusion. Cops are trained to talk even when things are bad. This wasn't bad. This was blank. Hospitals should have been the loudest. They weren't. Doctors vanish, you expect alarms, crashing carts, chaos. Instead, machines kept working until they didn't. Heart monitors flatlined, not because patients died, but because no one was there to wear them. Nurses' stations had notes scribbled on sticky pads. Back in 2, checking labs, BRB. Turns out they were very optimistic. Perm plants didn't fail. That part shocked everyone. Electricity stayed on for hours, some places days. Water kept flowing, lights stayed bright. Elevators waited patiently between floors. Systems don't usually behave that well when humans disappear. It's almost like the town was meant to stay presentable. Then there were the people outside the town, the ones who lived just far enough away to miss it. A delivery driver showed up the next morning. He thought it was a holiday. No traffic, no lines, no noise. He parked his truck, walked into a diner and waited. 5 minutes, 10, 15. The grill was cold. The register was open. Money inside. He left without taking anything. Later, he told police it felt wrong to touch stuff. That's a feeling that doesn't come from nowhere. A utility worker came next. He was sent to check a pressure drop. He didn't make it past the first street. Later, he said the town felt paused. Not abandoned, not dead. Paused. Like everyone just stepped out for a smoke break and forgot to come back. Here's the part that makes this worse. Animals. Pets were still there. Dogs lay beside open doors. Cats curled up on couches. Fish swam in tanks until food ran out. Some animals starved, some survived. None showed signs of stress. No scratching, no chewing through doors. It was like their people had vanished normally, as if disappearing was just another part of the routine. Wild animals avoided the town at first. No deer, no raccoons, no birds nesting in buildings. Nature usually rushes in. Here, it waited, almost politely. Investigators expected to find at least one witness, someone who saw something weird, a flash, a sound, a feeling. They found nothing. No reports of headaches, no ringing ears, no bright lights. People weren't running from anything. They weren't even reacting, which suggests something terrifying. They may not have had time to. One detail kept coming up: watches. People who wore watches stopped moving at the same second, but people who didn't, still gone. So it wasn't the watches, it was the moment. Surveillance cameras offered zero comfort. Footage didn't glitch, didn't cut out, didn't distort. People were there, then between frames, they weren't. No fade, no blur, no dramatic vanish. One frame, a cashier blinking. Next frame, empty register. The camera kept rolling. The world did not. No sound spike, no shadow movement, no strange shapes. Nothing to point at and say, that did it. Just absence. Clean, sharp, total. Government teams locked the town down fast. Roadblocks, barriers, warnings that explained nothing. Official statements used safe words. Under investigation, no immediate danger, cause unknown. Unofficially, no one wanted to stay overnight. Teams rotated out early, guards doubled shifts. Everyone slept badly. Some said the quiet messed with their head. Others said their watches felt heavy. One guy swore his phone clock lagged whenever he stepped past city limits. He was reassigned the next day. The scariest part: nothing tried to stop anyone from leaving. No invisible walls, no weird symptoms. You could walk in, you could walk out. The town didn't trap people. It just removed them. And then came the question nobody liked saying out loud. Why this town? No secret labs, no major bases, no weird history anyone could find fast enough. It wasn't special, which might be the worst part. Because if it can happen to an average place, a place with schools and pets and dinner plans, then it doesn't need a reason. It just needs a moment. Next chapter, we're going to rewind, back before the clock stopped, back to the tiny details no one cared about at the time. Because sometimes the warning signs don't scream, they whisper. And we missed every single one of them. Before everything went quiet. If you want to understand how something breaks, you don't start at the moment it snaps. You start right before. Back when everything still felt normal enough to ignore. In the days leading up to the freeze, the town looked fine. Not perfect, not happy movie fine, just regular. People went to work, kids complained about school, coffee shops ran out of oat milk and acted like it was a crime. Nothing dramatic. Which is annoying, honestly, because everyone hoped for at least one red flag. There wasn't one. Weather reports showed nothing strange. No storms, no weird pressure drops, no sudden heat spikes. It was calm, boring even. The kind of weather you forget 5 minutes later. Social media didn't help much either. People posted what people always post: a bad haircut, a blurry sunset, someone's lunch that didn't deserve a photo. No panic posts. No "anyone else feel weird today" threads. No last goodbyes. Just plans for tomorrow that never came. There were, however, small things. The kind you only notice after the fact. Like how a few people mentioned bad sleep. Nothing wild, just comments like "couldn't fall asleep last night. Woke up at 3 for no reason. Dreamt I missed something important." Which, yeah, same. That's just being human. But when enough people say it, it starts to feel less random. One local bar had security footage from the night before. The place was half full. People laughed, argued about sports, paid their tabs. At one point, everyone got quiet. Not suddenly, not at the same second, just a pause. Someone looked at their phone, someone else rubbed their arms like the room felt cold. Then the noise came back. Nobody left early, nobody called it out, but the bartender later said the room felt off. That's the word everyone used. Off. Power usage data showed a tiny spike that night. Nothing big enough to trip alarms, just a short jump, then normal again. Engineers argued about it for weeks. Some said it was nothing, others said it shouldn't have happened at all. The argument went nowhere. Most of them don't like talking about it now. Animals acted strange too. Not movie strange, subtle strange. Dogs didn't bark as much. Birds went quieter earlier than usual. A farmer on the edge of town said his cows refused to enter one field. No fence, no noise. They just stopped. He shrugged it off. Farmers see weird stuff all the time. One school teacher remembered something odd. Her class got restless right before dismissal. Not loud, not wild, just distracted. Kids stared at the clock. That clock, the one that would later stop forever. She joked, "Time must be broken today." The kids laughed. Bad joke, worse timing. Phone records showed something else. A lot of calls went unanswered that afternoon. Not missed calls, unanswered ones. Phones rang, vibrated, stopped. No voicemail. Like people were busy until they weren't. One woman was on hold with customer service. Recorded voice, soft music. The call ended on its own. She thought the line dropped. She called back. No answer. Ever. Traffic cams caught drivers slowing down for no reason. Not braking hard, not swerving, just easing off the gas. Like they felt the need to be careful but didn't know why. Then the footage jumps, and they're gone. There were no reports of pain. No hospital saw a spike in walk-ins. No pharmacies filled emergency orders. Whatever was coming didn't hurt, or didn't feel like it would. That part messes with people the most. One theory says the town didn't realize anything was wrong because nothing felt wrong. No fear response, no danger signal. Just a normal moment stretched a little too thin. Think about it. How often do you stop what you're doing for no reason? Mid-sentence, mid-step, mid-breath. You don't, unless something bigger tells you to. At exactly the same minute the clocks would later freeze, activity dropped everywhere. Not vanished, dropped. Like someone slowly turning down a dimmer switch. Less movement, less noise. Then, nothing. No one remembers the moment itself, because there's no one left to remember it. That's what makes the before so important. The calm, the routine, the complete lack of drama. Because if there were warnings, we missed them. And if there weren't, that's worse. Next chapter, we're going to talk about theories. Not the fun sci-fi ones, the serious ones people don't like to say out loud. Because once you accept that this really happened, you have to ask something terrifying. Was it an accident? Or was it practice? The theories nobody likes. When something has no clear cause, humans do what they always do. They guess. Quietly at first, then louder, then with charts. This town became a magnet for theories, some smart, some wild, some clearly written at 3 a.m. But a few of them made people uncomfortable. Those are the ones we're talking about. The first theory was the safest one. It was a natural event, something rare, something we don't fully understand yet. A freak energy burst, a pressure shift, some strange mix of physics that lined up just right. Scientists like this idea because it doesn't blame anyone. No enemy, no intent, just bad cosmic luck. The problem, is nature is messy. Earthquakes crack things. Storms leave trails. Radiation leaves burns and sickness. This left nothing. No damage, no heat marks, no bodies. Nature usually signs its work. This didn't. Next came the technical theory. It was a time-related event. Not time travel, not movie stuff. More like time failing, like a skipped frame in reality. The clock stopping wasn't the cause, it was the symptom. Supporters pointed to how clean everything was. No motion, no decay at first, just a pause. As if time didn't move forward in that space anymore. The scary part, time doesn't need permission. If it can break once, it can break again. People stopped liking this theory very fast. Then there was the one nobody wanted to fund. It was us. Human-made, not on purpose, not even targeted. An experiment, a test, a mistake. Something done far away with effects no one fully mapped. The town wasn't special. It was just downwind. Officials denied this hard. Too hard. No records, no missing shipments, no test schedules that lined up. But secrecy has layers, and not all of them leave paperwork. Another theory crept in through back doors and late-night forums. It was selective, not random, not global. Something chose that town, based on location, or population size, or timing. Maybe the town fit a pattern, not important individually, but perfect statistically. That idea scared planners, because patterns can repeat. Then came the theory people laughed at publicly and whispered about privately. The town wasn't erased. It was moved, not destroyed, relocated. Somewhere else, somewhere we can't see. Supporters pointed out something strange. There were no remains, no trace of mass death, no signs of struggle. If people were gone, where did they go? No one had an answer. That theory never got official attention, but it never went away either. Religious groups had their own takes. Some called it a rapture event, others called it a warning, others called it a mercy. Those arguments went nowhere. Faith explains meaning. This problem needed mechanics. Psychologists were brought in. They looked at the silence, the lack of panic, the way people seemed to stop without fear. One psychologist said something chilling. Whatever happened didn't trigger survival instincts. That means no pain, no threat felt, no time to react. Which means the brain didn't see danger. That's not normal. One unpopular theory said the people didn't disappear. They shut down. Like a switch flipped. Instant loss of consciousness. Everywhere. All at once. The bodies should have been there. But maybe they weren't allowed to stay. That idea made interviews end early. Another detail kept ruining theories. The animals. Pets stayed. Wildlife avoided the area. If it was radiation, animals would suffer first. If it was poison, same result. But pets waited and waited, like they expected their people back. Then someone asked a simple question, a bad one. What if the event wasn't finished? What if the town wasn't erased, but paused? Put on hold, like a document left open on a desktop. That would explain the stillness, the lack of decay at first, the way the town felt wrong, but not dead. That idea made a few researchers quietly quit.
Government interest slowed after a while. Funding moved elsewhere. Press stopped asking. Officially, the case stayed open. Unofficially, it went cold. Too many unknowns. No clear threat. No repeat events. At least, not ones we noticed. But here's something that never made the news. A few months later, clocks near the town started acting strange. Nothing dramatic. They'd lose a minute, gain a minute, then correct themselves. Phones would desync for seconds. Watches would feel off. Engineers blamed software. People who worked nearby blamed the place. Some guards refused to work night shifts. They said the quiet felt heavier after sunset, like sound got swallowed. One guard claimed he heard a car door close inside the town. No vehicles moved. Cameras showed nothing. He quit the next day. The theories didn't stop. They just got quieter, less public, more careful. Because every theory shared one uncomfortable truth. Whatever happened didn't look like a one-time thing. It looked like a process. And processes don't care if you're watching. Next chapter, we're going inside the town again. Not physically, emotionally. We're going to talk about what it does to people who study a place where time might have broken. Because the town didn't just take its residents. It changed everyone who looked at it too closely.
What the silence does to you. People think the scariest part is the disappearance. It's not. The scariest part is what happens after, to the people who stay long enough to listen. At first, investigators treated the town like a job. Clipboards, checklists, photos from every angle. Measure, record, move on. But this place didn't behave like a crime scene. It behaved like it was watching back. The silence was different. Not quiet like a library, not quiet like snow. It was thick. Sounds didn't echo right. Footsteps felt louder than they should. Voices dropped without anyone meaning to. People whispered, even when alone. That's not a rule you follow, that's a rule your brain invents for you. Staying overnight changed things. Daytime was manageable. Sunlight made it feel like a movie set. Fake, temporary, almost safe. Night? Night reminded everyone that this place wasn't empty. It was paused. Streetlights turned on automatically. Porch lights glowed for no one. Motion sensors clicked, then reset. Every light was a question. Researchers started reporting the same feeling. Not fear, anticipation. Like something was about to resume. Any second now. Sleep didn't come easy. Those who slept inside the town dreamed the same type of dreams. Not shared details, but shared feelings. Dreams where they were late. Dreams where time slipped away faster than they could grab it. Dreams where alarms rang, and never mattered. Most woke up checking their watches. Some said their watches felt heavier. Nobody knew what that meant. They just agreed on it. Psychologists called it environmental stress. Makes sense. Except stress usually pushes people out. This place pulled them back in. A few researchers volunteered for extra shifts. They couldn't explain why. They just said, "I feel like I'm missing something." That sentence appeared in reports more than once. One team set up audio recorders overnight. They expected wind, animals, maybe pipes shifting. Most nights the recordings were clean. Too clean. Then, once in a while, there'd be a sound. Not a voice. More like movement. A soft scrape. A faint thump. Always just outside range. Always impossible to place. Cameras didn't help. They worked fine. They just didn't see anything. But people watching the footage said the same thing. It felt like someone had just stepped out of frame, over and over again. Long-term exposure had effects. People lost track of time outside the town. Days blurred, hours skipped. One researcher swore he'd been inside for 4 hours. Logs showed 8. He laughed it off. He didn't come back the next week. Another said she felt watched near the stopped clocks. Not watched by eyes, watched by the moment. Like standing too close to something important you weren't supposed to touch. She stopped wearing a watch after that. The strangest change was emotional. People stopped joking, even the sarcastic ones. Humor faded naturally like it didn't belong there. One tech tried to make a joke during a late shift. No one laughed. Not because it wasn't funny, because it felt wrong, like laughing during a held breath. Some guards developed routines. They walked the same routes, checked the same doors. Order helped. Routine made time feel normal again. Until it didn't. A guard once completed his route and found a door unlocked. He was sure it had been locked before. No signs of force, just different. He double-checked the logs. No entries. He stopped doing night shifts. Here's the part nobody likes admitting. A few people felt calm there. Too calm. Like the town quieted their thoughts. Like stress didn't follow them past the limits. One researcher said it felt peaceful. She asked to extend her assignment. Her supervisor said no. She cried when she left. Didn't know why. That raised a terrifying question. What if the town wasn't hostile? What if it wasn't dangerous? What if it was inviting? That idea got shut down fast. Funding committees don't like words like that. But the feeling stayed. The sense that the town wasn't broken. It was waiting. Some nights, clocks inside buildings ticked once. Just once. Then stopped again. No one could catch it on camera, but enough people heard it that it made the reports. Single tick event. That's what they called it. Like giving it a name made it smaller. Eventually, teams rotated out completely. Remote monitoring replaced human presence. The town became something you watched, not something you entered. Safer that way. Cleaner. Less personal. But even from a distance, the town changed people. Those who worked the case too long started checking clocks more often. They hated silence. They slept with TVs on. They didn't like rooms where time felt slow. Because once you've stood in a place where time might have stopped, you don't fully trust it anymore. Next chapter, we're going to talk about the one thing that shouldn't have happened at all. A moment, years later, when the town almost proved it wasn't finished. And why that moment was buried as fast as possible. The moment it almost moved again. For years, Nothing happened. That was the official story. The town sat there, sealed off, monitored from a distance, slowly becoming a rumor people argued about online. Interest faded, funding dried up, new disasters took the spotlight. Time, everywhere else, kept doing its job. Except here. Then, one night, something went wrong. Or, right. Depends who you ask. It started small, like all the worst things do. A remote monitoring system flagged a glitch. Just one alert. A time sync error. Those happen. Systems drift, satellites hiccup, software gets tired. Engineers ignore alerts like this all the time. But this one wouldn't clear. The system kept correcting itself, over and over, like it was arguing with reality. At first, they blamed the equipment. Technicians ran diagnostics. Everything checked out. Power was stable, signals were clean, no storms, no interference. The town, according to the data, had just disagreed with the clock. Then, cameras noticed something. Not movement, not really. A shadow changed position between frames. Same street, same lighting, same angle. Different shadow. No object to cast it. That clip got labeled corrupted and archived. Standard procedure. No one likes unexplained shadows. Audio sensors picked up a sound shortly after. One sound. A click. Not static, not interference. A clean mechanical click, like a switch. That timestamp on the audio file didn't match anything. It was off by exactly 1 second. Just one. That shouldn't happen. A junior analyst noticed something else. Power usage inside the town spiked for less than a second. Not enough to trip alarms, not enough to notice unless you were looking hard, which, unfortunately for everyone, she was. She flagged it. Her supervisor told her to log it and move on. She didn't. She watched the live feed instead. That's when the clock moved. One clock. Inside a small diner near the center of town. The same diner where plates still sat on tables, where a coffee cup still waited at the counter. The clock above the register ticked forward. Once. Just once. Cameras caught it, clear as day. No blur, no glitch, no cut. The second hand moved. And then stopped again. The room went silent in the monitoring center. Not dramatic silence. The bad kind. The kind where nobody breathes because they're afraid of what breathing might interrupt. Someone said, "Run it again." They did, frame by frame. The clock moved. Nothing else did. No wind, no vibration, no human error. Just time, testing itself. They shut the feed down immediately, not because of protocol, because nobody knew what protocol was anymore. Within hours, a small team was sent back in. First boots on the ground in years. No press, no announcements, just quiet vans and nervous people pretending they weren't excited. Or scared. Probably both. Inside the diner, everything looked the same. Dust thicker, coffee darker, air stale. The clock showed the new time, 1 second later than every other clock in town. That second existed. Technicians checked the mechanism. No damage, no tampering. The clock worked fine. They tested it. It ticked normally. They reset it to match the others, stepped back, waited. Nothing happened. Then something else changed. Temperature sensors showed a slight rise, barely noticeable, but real, like a body entering a room. One team member said the air felt heavy. Another said it felt tight. Someone joked it was just nerves. Nobody laughed. Then came the sound. Not loud, not clear, more like a breath taken in a room that shouldn't have lungs. The team froze, and for one horrifying second, they wondered if they had just made the same mistake the town did. Nothing happened. No disappearance, no flash, no warning, just silence again. Deeper this time. They pulled out. Fast. Equipment stayed behind. Questions went unanswered. The town went back on lockdown before sunrise. Official reports called it a system error, a sync fault, a coincidence. The clock movement was blamed on temperature change, The audio was labeled interference. The shadow? Data corruption. The junior analyst didn't buy it. Neither did a few others. They noticed something that never made it into the report. After the clock ticked, the town felt different, even through screens. Less still, like a paused video buffering. In the weeks that followed, small things kept happening. Clocks near the town drifted more often. Phones desynced for seconds at a time. Watches stopped, then restarted. Always near that place. Always subtle. One guard on the outer perimeter reported something strange. At exactly the same time every night, his radio would crackle. No voice, just static. But the static had rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. He requested a transfer. He got it. No one blamed him. Here's the detail that ended the investigation for good. A satellite pass over the town showed movement. Not people, not animals. Light. Street lights turning off, one by one, in order, like a system shutting down or rebooting. That data was classified, then buried, then forgotten on purpose. Because the question nobody wanted to answer was simple. If time can move 1 second, why stop there? The town wasn't dead. It wasn't empty. It wasn't finished. It was paused mid-action. And something, somewhere, had reached out and nudged the play button, just to see what would happen. Next chapter, we're going to talk about why this story never fully disappeared, why people still dream about this town, and why every once in a while, someone swears they recognize a place they've never been. Because maybe, time didn't erase the town. Maybe, it just misplaced it. After the incident with the clock, the story should have ended. That's usually how these things go. One last scare, one last report, then silence. But this town didn't stay put. It followed people. Not physically. You didn't see streets where they shouldn't be. No houses popping up overnight. It followed people in quieter ways. The annoying ways. The ways you can't prove. It started with dreams. People who worked the case began dreaming about places they'd never been. A diner with cracked red booths. A streetlight flickering at the end of a block. A school hallway that smelled like dust and floor cleaner. They'd wake up and feel sure they'd been there. Then remember they hadn't. At least, not officially. The dreams weren't traumatic. No running, no screaming, just standing, waiting for something to happen. That was the worst part. One former guard dreamed he was stuck at a red light. It never turned green. No cars honked, no engines revved. Just him and the light. When he woke up, his alarm clock read the same time as the town's frozen clocks. He unplugged it. Didn't sleep the rest of the night. Psychologists called it exposure effect. You spend too much time on one case, it leaks into your head. Makes sense. Except the dreams spread. People who never entered the town started having them too. Analysts, archivists, even a journalist who only read the files. They described the same feeling. Not fear. Recognition. Like remembering something you didn't know you forgot. Online forums picked it up next. Small ones at first. Threads with titles like, "Anyone else dream of an empty town? Same place in my sleep. Am I losing it? Clocks stopping in dreams?" Most people laughed it off. Until details lined up. Same diner layout, same stopped clocks, same quiet. No shared images, no leaked photos. Just matching memories. That's when officials stepped in. Not loudly. Posts got buried, threads locked, accounts banned for misinformation. Classic cleanup. But you can't unring a bell, especially one that keeps ticking in people's heads. Here's something that never went public. A few missing persons cases showed a pattern. People who vanished years later. Different cities, different lives, but the same detail. Their last known location had something in common. A stopped clock. A man found his car abandoned at a green light. Engine cold, door closed, no signs of struggle. Dashcam showed him slowing down. Then, nothing. No crash, no exit. Just an empty seat. A woman disappeared mid-shift at a late-night diner. Coffee still warm, order pad half filled. The wall clock above the counter stopped. Same minute, different year. Investigators tried to connect it. They failed. Officially. Unofficially, some stopped wearing watches altogether. People living near the original town reported weird things. Nothing big. Clocks running slow, phones losing signal for seconds. That feeling of walking into a room and forgetting why you're there. Everyone gets that. Except they got it more. One family claimed their TV turned on by itself at night. Always the same channel. Static. Not loud. Just enough to notice. They moved. Didn't tell anyone why. The town itself stayed quiet. No more clock ticks, no more light patterns. But something had changed. Satellite images showed slower decay than expected. Buildings held up better than they should have. Nature crept in carefully, like it wasn't sure it was allowed. A scientist described it best in a private note. The town behaves like it expects its people back. That sentence never made it into a report. The final theory wasn't about science or time. It was about memory. What if time can freeze one place? Why would it forget it exists? Some believe the town is still there, still set, still waiting. Dinner cold, cars idle, lights on. Just 1 second behind us. Others think the town is gone forever, and what we're seeing now is just the echo. Like sound bouncing off a wall long after the noise stops. Either way, the result is the same. People don't trust time like they used to. They check clocks twice, they notice pauses. They hate silence, because silence feels loaded now. And every once in a while, someone swears they recognize a place they've never been. A street corner, a diner, a red light that feels too familiar. They stand there a little longer than they should, waiting, just in case. Next chapter, we're going to end where this all began, with the moment time froze, and the question that never stopped haunting everyone who looked too closely. If time can pause, who decides when it plays again?
Every story like this ends the same way. With a date, with a reason, with a clean answer you can wrap up and put away. This one doesn't get that. It ends with a second. That frozen second never aged. Years passed, paint peeled, dust thickened, but that moment stayed sharp, like it never realized it was supposed to move on. Researchers eventually stopped visiting the town. Budgets disappeared. Priorities changed. The place was labeled inactive, which is a polite way of saying, we don't know what to do with this. Still, the clocks stayed frozen. Same second, same silence. Except the one clock, the diner clock. It stayed 1 second ahead. That second belonged to something. No one knew what. People asked if the town could be restarted. They hated themselves for asking, because that meant pressing a button without knowing what it did. No one wanted to be the person who brought something back wrong. Time-related research moved forward elsewhere. Labs built machines to measure smaller moments, nanoseconds, quantum ticks, stuff you don't feel. And sometimes the data glitched, always off by 1 second, just long enough to notice. A physicist once joked, "Maybe we borrowed a second we never returned." Nobody laughed. Outside the town, life moved on. New roads were built around it. Maps still showed it, but people stopped mentioning it. Kids grew up not knowing it existed, which is funny, because the town never grew up either. One last team reviewed everything years later. Fresh eyes, no emotional baggage. They found nothing new, except a pattern nobody wanted to claim. Every time global systems added a leap second, clocks near the town acted strange. Just for a moment. Just enough. That made one thing clear. The town wasn't disconnected from time. It was still listening. The final report ended with a sentence that never made it public. This event does not appear to be finished. That was it. No follow-up, no signature. Just a warning pretending to be a conclusion. So where does that leave us? With a town that didn't vanish in fire or noise, with people who didn't run or scream, with a moment that didn't end. If you stand in silence long enough, you notice something. Time doesn't rush. We do. Time just keeps moving until it doesn't. Maybe the town wasn't taken. Maybe it stepped aside. Maybe it found a place where seconds don't matter. And maybe, right now, somewhere near you, a clock hesitates, just a little. Not enough to panic, not enough to notice unless you're looking. If that happens, don't worry. Most of the time it passes. But if it doesn't, if the room feels too quiet, if sounds flatten, if you feel like you're waiting for something you can't name, check the time. And remember, the moment time froze once, there's nothing stopping it from doing it again.